Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dental Assistant Nation podcast. My name is Kevin Henry. Honored to be the host of this podcast and honored as always to have a returning guest, dear friend and dental assistant extraordinaire, and that is Tija Hunter. Hey Tia, how are you, pal?
Hey, I was kind of excited seeing who you were going to have in your podcast, and it was me. So,
The lucky wheel turned to you once again, and I love
yes,
it.
it
That's
did.
great.
And I'm very grateful.
That's great. Well,
Love DA
Tia,
Nation.
and we love having you on. You know, I always love hanging out with you. I know you are such an advocate for dental assistants, and I appreciate that so much. Uh, I want to talk about something real important with you today because we're getting into the fall, which is going to be the kind of the rest of trade show season,
Oh,
the
yes.
rest of our meetings that are going to happen here in the dental industry. Can we talk about the value of CE for assistants
Yeah.
and why, even in those states where our listeners are that maybe CE isn't required or that
hmm
much isn't required, why is it important to you that assistants get that CE?
Well, personally, as a former dental assistant, uh, you know, you don't know what you don't know, and I know that's kind of a cliche phrase and everything, but it's so true. And dental assistants will tell me, "Well, I don't need CE." Well, you might not need the credits, but you need to continually learn. So you do need the continual education. This profession, as you know, just changes. It's like a rolling stone, right? I mean, there's new, there's exciting, there's different, there's evolving information out there. And you need to be a part of it. And maybe your office doesn't do implants right now, but learn about implants because I'm telling you what, it's coming. Or maybe your office doesn't do CAD CAM. CAD CAM still has a long way to go. There's a lot of people using it. There's still a lot more people not using it. So never limit yourself on what you can learn because you can bring things back to the practice. You can bring systems, you can bring services, you can bring products back to your practice that maybe your doctor, your office manager didn't take the same class as you did, but there's information you can take back that maybe they didn't hear, and it's going to be valuable to your practice, and that's what makes you valuable.
Yeah. And can we say a really not well kept secret, but still one I think we got to get out there is that these dental assistants take the education with them if
Oh
they
gosh,
leave the practice.
yes.
You know, because you mentioned that implants and maybe they're not doing it right now. Well, you could be doing it in your next practice or the next phase of your career.
Absolutely, you're right. And so don't limit yourself and think, yeah, I don't need that because you might very well need it. So no, since this COVID, I don't know if you heard about that word, but
Heard of it.
um, we've got a lot of newbies out there that need to get this information, that need to be trained. So never limit yourself on the things you're taking. And Kevin, you and I both know we did some education for ADOM
Yep.
and DA to PA. So you never know when you're going to be a dental assistant and you transition into a practice administrator. It happened to me. It's happened to many dental assistants over the years. You're the doctor's right hand. They completely trust you. And now there's a position of office manager open in the office and they need you to jump in there because they have this relationship with you and they need you trained. And so, gosh, communication, leadership, all kinds of headache insurance stuff to learn. But, so you never know when you're going to need that, when your doctor's going to say, I need you to jump in here and,
Yep.
and it'll be good for you. And yes, you might be a dental assistant at one practice and see another opportunity open in another practice and go, hey, I think I'm going to go for that. That education will just prepare you. It will equip you to do better.
So I'm going to pick your DA brain here.
Okay.
Whenever you would do CE, how did you balance the clinical side versus the practice management side? How did you kind of balance your learning opportunities?
Well, it would just depend on what the event was. Sometimes it was just strictly a CAD CAM event or an insurance event or something like that. Well, that's a no-brainer. But when you go to Chicago or Hinman or one of these courses, I just like to read everything that's there. And unfortunately, sometimes I want to go to this one and this one at the same time. But look at the different courses and find what really works for you. Maybe this clinical one here is in the morning, but then you can take this admin one in the afternoon. So really just kind of weigh your options. What does your individual practice need? Like where are they lacking? And maybe I can go to that one. So, it just kind of, it's all up to you, but keep those opportunities open. And so, and like you said, I know I'm speaking in Kentucky here in a few weeks. I'm speaking in Virginia next month. So, if when those shows start coming around, start having the conversations with your doctor. Hey, so far I'm not going to this, but there's some really good education. Pick out the classes you want to go to, bring it to your doctor, ask them if they'll pay for your education. I think that that's important. Keep that conversation open with them, but have the initiative to seek out that education.
And I love that because you mentioned the doctor side of things. And I know so often there are assistants who won't go to CE unless they're with their doctor and it's a clinical thing they learn together. So I love that you taking the initiative to say, this is important. This is something I want to get better at or I want to learn about,
Yep.
and really having that game plan for the doc.
Yeah, you really have to have that initiative. And I know my employer loved that I had the initiative that I wanted to do that I wanted to go out and do that. And so maybe he wasn't even going. Maybe your doctor's not even going to this particular meeting, but you have an opportunity. Friday, there's some good classes. Saturday, when you're available, take the initiative to go do it like we both agree. It stays with you.
Yeah.
That education might benefit the office of the practice you're in today, but all of that experience and education stays with you, and it's going to benefit you in your career.
And, before we went on, you and I were talking about things that assistants maybe should focus on toward the end of the year. And you mentioned the importance of compliance and
Yes.
documentation.
Yes.
So I'm curious, talk to me about why that's important right now and how assistants can maybe learn about that and get better at it and have their doc get better at it as well.
Well, I think it's one of the most understated things that we do. I think we kind of take it for granted. It's documentation and chart notes. Now that HIPAA has made us have the portal, patients are going to read their chart notes. And so, are your chart notes professional? Are they clear? Are they detailed oriented? Because they should be. Things like that. But it's not just chart notes, it's documentation for OSHA, for HIPAA, for infection control. Have you had your annual training? So there's so many things out there that we have to document for OSHA and HIPAA, and people look at me like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You just don't buy an OSHA book and put it on the shelf. I mean, you got to do stuff with that. So I think that, again, you don't know what you don't know. So, get yourself out there. Maybe you're the OSHA compliance person at your office, but that really hasn't meant a lot to you and you haven't really done anything with it. Well, find those classes that are out there. If you haven't been trained annually, set up some training and get that done so that, you can learn from it.
So is one of the biggest things that maybe mistakes, shall we say, about documentation, the fact that we always say, oh, I don't have time for that right now, I'll do it later.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we never do it.
Then we never do it because it's not important to us. Well, we don't see the importance of it.
Yeah.
We don't understand the value in that. And it truly is valuable to know what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do it. And when does it become valuable? When OSHA or the dental board is knocking at your door, and then you have that oh poo poo moment where
Yeah.
you go, what am I, what did she say? What did that trainer say that I'm supposed to do? Right. So, yeah, it's important to get on it and keep on it, keep on top of it so that when the poo poo does hit the fan, you're not the one standing in front of it.
And luckily that never happens in any dental practices.
Oh, never,
Yeah.
ever in any dental office. If I had a dime.
So I know one thing that can help the poo-poo not hit the fan, which I
And
love.
what is that?
Well, it might be something that you're very passionate about as well. So let's talk about that for just a minute and tell me about your pet project and why it matters to dental assistants.
Well, it is the dental compliance calendar. It was something I created, spent many years as a dental assistant, and for the last several years, really focusing on training teams. And the reason why I want to train teams is because I did it all wrong. My 42 years in dentistry, if it's been done wrong, I have beat everybody to it. I've done it all wrong. So my passion now is training teams on how to do it better and how to be better than I am, and try to keep up with all the changing things. So I created a calendar that has that in it. It's got OSHA compliance, infection control, HIPAA compliance, and even maintenance, because maintenance is so important. Documentation for maintenance that we overlook all the time. I overlooked mentioning it earlier. So the calendar's a January through December calendar, like every other calendar, but it's full of tips and tricks and all kinds of cool things, just to help you. And I think about it being like a living logbook that you can document things in, punch 3 holes in it, stick it in the binder, your OSHA binder, just as a good record keeper. And then and it's also a great thing to train newbies with. So for instance, the plaster trap, it's got on there to train the plaster trap. Do you know, I went to school to be a dental assistant. I did not learn what a plaster trap was. Kevin Henry, if you have ever smelled a plaster trap, you would know what I'm talking about. And so uh, we walked in one Monday, and it was not smelling good at all. And we were kind of like, what is that smell? Did you leave your lunch out over the weekend? And we were looking around, and my doctor looked at me and goes, have you changed the plaster trap? And I'm like, what's a plaster trap? I mean, and I went to school, right? So he looked under the sink, and it was just gross. And when he took it off, it was like, oh my
Oh,
God, I will
wow.
never forget that smell. And so it has reminders in there. We're busy. Maybe we didn't train anybody on what a plaster trap was, but when they come on that, change plaster trap. What's a plaster trap? Do this. You check your O-rings, those are going to spark conversations to have,
Nice.
so that we go, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that. We're not perfect. And so, there sometimes we're so shorthanded. We're just training on the fly, right? We're just
Right.
trying to get through the day and train you the best we can. So this really does kind of spark conversations as to, like, oh yeah, we got to do that. Oh yeah, we're supposed to do that. You can have your teammates sign off on it to hold them accountable. Yep, Shelly did that, Tim did that, whatever, Betty
Good.
did that, so that it holds your team accountable, to, so that we know everything is getting accomplished.
Accountability is so important. I love
Oh my
that.
gosh, yes.
And I think accountability builds teamwork too. I
It
really
really
do
does.
that.
And it's not just, I think people think it was accountability, we can blame you, but it's for me too. It's like, oh yeah, because a dental assistant does so many things. We can mark it off. And then, 2 hours later when I go, oh yeah, I need to do that. Oh no, I already did that. Right. Or, we handled it, and that can spark a conversation on how we handled it or what we did. Hey, I really like the way you did this. Okay, well, this is how I did it. So I think it's better than a reminder. It's a living logbook, and a good way to keep everybody on the same page.
All right. So tell people where they can learn more about the calendar. And then I want to make sure you also touch upon a really cool educational event that's coming up as well.
Oh, okay. Well, they can email me. My email address is tijaefda for expanded function dental assistant at Gmail. Kevin, I'm sure you'll put that up somewhere so
In the
they'll
show
see it.
notes. Absolutely.
And then this amazing event that we're going to, it is held in November. It's at Big Cedar Lodge. You can email me to find out all about this too. It is called Collabricon, and it is a brainchild of myself, Lois Banta, Dana Watson, and Emmy Sanders. And, we represent all the office. We represent the dentist, the dental assistant, Emmy's a dental hygienist, office administrators. Dana's also a spouse. So we're really kind of representing the whole team. And it's a great educational event for every team member, not just your doctor to go to, but we want entire teams there so we can really focus on, getting everybody on the same page and you learning together. You know how many times you go to Chicago or you go to some, big meeting, and you go to your classes and you get so energized, you heard some great information and you cannot wait for Monday morning, and you come in Monday morning, you're like, we did this, and we learned this, and everybody's looking at you like, but, and you're all excited,
Yeah.
but they're not excited because they didn't go to the same class. And so by having it all together, we're going to bring whole teams together in one place, very interactive. We're going to, help you create a game plan for the next year in your office. It's going to be November 15th and 16th, I believe, down at Big Cedar Lodge in Branson, Missouri. So it's like a crazy, incredible venue that we're having, and just an amazing event for team members to come to. So email me if you want to find out more about it, and I'd be happy to share that with you.
And absolutely, Tia's contact information is going to be in the show notes. Real easy to find, and I know Tia is very responsive. If you've got questions about being a DA, compliance, CE, whatever it might be, Tia's absolutely anything. Just ask Tia anything. The LATA. So, Tia, thank you so much for being on today. It's always good to pick your brain, and I love to hear what you always have to say.
Thank you, dear. Thank you for having me. You take care.
Absolutely. And thanks to all of you listening to this episode of the DA Nation podcast. Hey, dental assistants, we love what you're doing. And I also want to tease something real quick before we sign off. The South Africa trip that we've talked about is just 2 weeks away. So you're going to be getting a load of podcasts right before Labor Day here in the U.S. So just get ready for that, because we're going to be documenting the trip to South Africa and everything that we're learning there. Until next time, Kevin Henry, host of the DA Nation, signing off and wish you nothing but success ahead.